Hi, my name's Angela. I am currently a third-year pharmacy student. Today I wanted to kind of share my experience with pharmacy interviews, just to share what happened to me when I had interviewed for pharmacy school and kind of tips I think I would give someone if they were going into pharmacy school interviews. So to start, I applied to 3 pharmacy schools. One was inside my state and 2 were out of state. A lot of people I knew just applied to 1, maybe 2 schools, but I was someone who wanted to make sure that I had options because I didn't want to wait in case I didn't get into the school that I wanted, which was inside of my state. So I had an extra fee to pay for 2 other schools to apply to. I ended up getting asked to interview at all 3 of the schools, but I only did interviews at 2 of the schools. So I had heard back from the school that I wanted to get into before I had the chance to interview at the 3rd school. So I completed 2 interviews basically, but I didn't decide to do the 3rd interview because I wanted to get into the 1 school and I got into it. So I would just keep in mind though, although it does increases your chances of getting into a school, if you apply more places, it was more expensive and I had to pay extra fees, less than $100 for each of the schools I applied to. That may change, but that's just something else to keep in mind. If you're short on money, then that'll be something to think about. But for most of the pharmacy schools now, as far as I know, they do PharmCast, which is an online website, which I'll link below, which allows you to put all your information into one place and then it sends it out to the pharmacy schools that you want to apply to. Things such as your general information, some essays, your letters of recommendation, your resume, your transcripts, your coursework, a lot of things. And it's kind of a long process to use, but it's not too cumbersome, and I'm guessing they'll improve it in the future. But that's what I did for a couple schools, but one of my schools didn't use PharmCast, so I went through their website to get their interview and their application materials. So definitely visiting the website that you're going to apply to and making sure that if they do use PharmCast, a lot of the ones I applied to required other things besides just using PharmCast. They wanted specific questions answered as far as the application process went. So that'll be something to consider. The most challenging thing when it came to using PharmCast and doing the application process was writing a cover letter. I had never written a cover letter before in my life, so at my university where I did my undergrad, I had a really good opportunity to use the journalism department and ask them for help in writing my cover letter, describing what it was, revising it. I think I went about 2 or 3 times total, asking them what they thought about it, what they thought the focus was. They were really good at helping me narrow down what it should be because cover letters are generally just 1 page. And when you want to write about everything, about your qualifications and your interest in pharmacy, it can become very, very long, but of course it has to be 1 page. So they were really good at revising my sentences, making sure they sounded good, and also making sure that my cover letter had a focus where it was supposed to go. So if you know someone who's a journalist or someone who's in school journalism, or even just someone who could help you revise papers when you're in undergrad, a lot of universities seem to have that service for free, so I definitely utilize that. But that was the most struggling thing that I had. Otherwise, resumes are something that you're going to have to probably prepare. There are a lot of different tips and examples online. I definitely just used an online template and filled in my personal information. That was 2 pages maximum, and it included a lot of my high school involvement as well, but as I've been in pharmacy school, that has all gone by the wayside, so my resume now looks very different than it did when I was applying to pharmacy school, so just keep that in mind. But you can include, I included high school information in my resume. But you'll notice that some pharmacy schools that you apply to have early acceptance, and I would definitely recommend that just personally for me, I thought it was really nice to be able to already know. That didn't apply to me. I would say that would be a benefit. My pharmacy schools I applied to did not have early acceptance, but that's something else to keep in mind. Which pharmacy schools you apply to, they may have early acceptance. So if you're really gunning towards one certain pharmacy school, but another pharmacy school you're applying to has early acceptance in the fall, and then your pharmacy school lets you know in the spring that you want to go to, it's just something else to keep in mind. Some schools have early acceptance and some don't. The other money thing to keep in mind is traveling. So I did have to travel for both interviews that I had, and that's an added expense to think about. Just when you're thinking, oh, I'll apply anywhere and then I'll go interview anywhere. Well, plane tickets, traveling, gas is something to think about. And I interviewed in the spring and I did my applications in the fall. And you just have to check which pharmacy school you're applying to, whether that'll be fall or spring. But some things I would say to prepare that I did to prepare was keeping current on pharmacy topics. APHA, or the American Pharmacists Association, does a really good job of sending out a weekly newsletter, daily newsletter about different pharmacy topics. When I was in pre-pharmacy, I understood none of them, so it was kind of something I just read and I tried to pull what I could from it, but I would definitely look at that at least maybe a month or a couple weeks before your interviews to know what's going on in the world of pharmacy and know what kind of topics are being covered and being addressed, because that'll probably come up in your interviews because they want to know if you're interested in pharmacy, if you're even keeping up on the news of pharmacy, what's going on, what's being debated. So that's something I would recommend. Pharmacy Times is also a really, really good resource because they tend to have specific stories and things in really nice articles that you can read and keep yourself up to date on. With any other interview kind of prep, you want to find a nice outfit, dress up. I wore I didn't wear a dress because I wanted to be comfortable, so I wore like a blazer and some nice slacks, and I didn't wear heels because I felt that would be distracting. So I saw people wear a lot of different things. I'm not saying one dress code fits all, but they do want you to be comfortable, of course appropriate, and I just typically seem to have noticed that blazers and things like that are very, very accepted, and so that's what I went with. So I did prepare some just general interview questions. What are some strengths? What are some weaknesses that you have that you know of? Why do you think that this job is a good fit for you? And insert, pharmacy student as job here instead of job. So that's something else with any interview. You kind of just think about general questions. Where do you see yourself? What kind of goals do you have in life? Those are things that I prepared. I definitely learned from others that you need to be asking some questions of the interviewees about the pharmacy school. That's an important aspect, and they want to know if you're interested in them. So definitely think of some questions. You can think of some generic questions. I believe I asked specifically about are you going to expose me to all the different areas of pharmacy, because I'm still unsure about which type of pharmacy I want to enter into as a career. So that was a good question, because then one, it seemed that I was interested, but also I could really understand what that program would do for me when it came to that specific area that I wanted. I wanted from a pharmacy school. I wanted to get exposure to all different areas so that I can make the best decision for my career. So research the school as well. If that's a good question to ask if you that's a good thing to do if you want to know what good questions to ask. Go on the university's website and see what they're known for, what they're doing, maybe some of the teachers. Then you can ask, okay, I see your program is known for this, this, and this. How do you feel like I will be exposed to that as a pharmacy student? And how do you feel like I can benefit most from your program? That'll just be a really good thing for you to do, is to know a little bit about the school you're applying to and then go on their website and see if you can pull questions from that. I definitely got nervous the day of, taking lots of deep breaths, of course, like any interview, but this is a big one for me, especially the school that I really wanted to get into. I interviewed at the school that was my second choice first, so it was less pressure, and the school that I really wanted, I interviewed, and it was definitely very nerve-wracking. But breathe as much as you can. Just know that if you're nervous, it'll make it 10 times worse. As far as whatever you're worried you'll do, nerves will make it 10 times worse. But it helped with me to talk to someone before and after. I just had someone in my family. I said, hey, I'm going to have a really stressful day. If I can call you before and after, that'd be great, and just talk to you about it. And just vent. So that's something I would recommend. Just have a designated person who that's their job, so you don't have to worry about bothering anyone. Most likely it'll be your parents, but that was something the day of. After my interview, I thought the school hated me, and I thought the school that I wanted wouldn't get in. My first interview, I thought that I knew nothing about pharmacy, because it was such a different type of school, and they were doing different things that I wasn't used to seeing in my own pharmacy experience and my own pharmacy community setting. So I was like, oh, I don't know anything about pharmacy. And then when I went to the school I wanted to, I said, oh, they hate me. So ruling that one out. But I did end up getting into the school that I wanted to, so that was really lucky, and they didn't hate me enough to deny me getting into pharmacy school. But it was helpful too. Some of the interviewees, I went in a group, so when I got there, we all traveled as a group to a waiting room, and then we each did our individual one-on-one interviews. I interviewed with 2 professors. But afterwards, us as a group, we traveled and we went to specific interviews that actually pharmacy students participated in. So pharmacy students were able to interview us and ask us some questions, some tough ethical and just different situational questions that I had never thought about. And it was really just to kind of see how we would respond, not necessarily have the right answer. So afterwards, though, that pharmacy student group that I interviewed with, we kind of talked, and shared our experiences. So that's really helpful too, not just talking to someone else in your family, but talking with people who just went through what you went through. But one thing during the interviews, I was definitely asked questions about current topics. I was asked more broad questions about study habits, things that I kind of thought about the field of pharmacy, and also just how I thought I would fit in as a pharmacy student. But definitely a couple times I just had to admit, I don't know. I don't know the answer, and that's okay. And I think they want you to do that rather than to fake it and act like you know what you're talking about when you don't. And they're a lot smarter than me, and I knew that they could tell if I was BSing my way and I didn't really know what I was talking about. So those are kind of the things I wanted to talk about when I think about my pharmacy interview experience. It definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think the biggest things are to prepare your cover letter, prepare your application materials as best as you can with help from others. When it comes to the interview itself, have prepared questions to ask, and also have questions that you feel like they'll commonly ask, and keep up with current pharmacy issues and current pharmacy knowledge via some news sites. And I'll link those below, the APHA and the Pharmacy Times, so you can learn more information. But as far as you can, just try not to stress, be prepared, but be calm, and try to join the process if you can. And if not, afterwards, you'll just kind of laugh at it like I did. So I hope that helps, and I hope you have a great day.